Meanwhile, let's talk about that long-anticipated COVID-19 vaccine for children. It's now even closer. Today, Pfizer and BioNTech submitted it for emergency use authorization of their children's vaccine. And it's for kids ages 5 to 11, and it's a series of 2 smaller doses. Now, the president is set to speak this afternoon about vaccination, so hear more about the focus coming from the federal level. But let's talk to Bloomberg's Robert Langreth about health and the focus of the children's vaccine. Do we think this is going to get an all clear? Because I know many a school, many a parent is waiting very much on this.
Well, right, definitely. This is the first vaccine to be submitted to be authorized in a pediatric dose for younger kids. This is ages 5 to 11 they're talking about, so younger school kids. And there's the potential of having this on the market available by early November for school kids, and certainly a lot of parents that want it. But the FDA is definitely going to look at this vaccine data and safety very, very carefully because young kids, while they can spread the virus, they're less likely to develop severe complications. And certainly at the same time, there's some indications that younger males, and in particular, are more likely to get this rare adverse event that's been reported, this myocarditis, this heart inflammation. So that's all going to be looked at very, very carefully to make sure that the vaccine is totally safe in young kids. And one of the things that's different is that Pfizer and BioNTech are going for a lower dose in the younger kids. They're going for 1/3 the adult and older teenage dose. It's a much lower dose on young kids. But clearly, this is a big event, a big advisory panel that's happening towards the end of the month. The data is going to be reviewed in public again, and everyone's kind of waiting very carefully to see what that reveals.
Maybe talk to us a little bit about the hurdles, the differences in the hurdles between the children's vaccines approval and the adult vaccine approval. Presumably, there are a lot of parents that are waiting for this vaccine, but there are also a lot of parents that are probably going to tread somewhat lightly as to necessarily running out to get their kids vaccinated. What kind of hurdles are there for approving the vaccine that can make those parents feel a little bit more assured in its efficacy and likely side effects being somewhat minimal?
So they are applying for an emergency use authorization. So it's similar to the original emergency use authorizations for older people. Now, the Pfizer vaccine in adults now has a full approval because they've gotten 6 months of follow-up data, and we're able to get full approval for the adult vaccine. So this would still be an emergency authorization in younger kids. But the FDA actually the U.S. Food and Drug Administration actually made Pfizer and other companies go back and increase the size of their trials in the younger children in order to increase the size of the safety database. So we're talking about there are likely to be several thousand younger kids in the trials. We don't have the exact numbers, so the data hasn't been out there yet. But at this advisory panel meeting, it's likely to be an all-day meeting at the end of the month. All this data is going to be discussed and revealed in detail in a public meeting, so anyone will have a chance to vet it, look at it themselves.
I know we haven't quite gotten to consensus with regards to the FDA and CDC advisors and scientists with regards to both the use of this in the normal population, whether the booster shots should be a factor in this, and of course now factoring in the younger kids here at 5 to 11 here. There's still been a lot of political, though, I won't go so far to call it interference, but certainly political input into getting these approvals done here, Bob. Do you think that that's going to be a factor here in the conversation when we get to it later next week?
Well, I mean, certainly from the surface, it looks like there has been, some kind of subtle political pressure, on the FDA to make a decision on this. Now, Pfizer is the one that made the announcement today via tweet that it's finalized its emergency use authorization application in kids. But the FDA, in anticipation of that, had already scheduled an advisory panel meeting for the end of this month, to review the data for the Pfizer, vaccine in younger kids. So this is definitely going to be a high-profile meeting, no question about it. They're going to want to really carefully review the safety data, and that's going to be just a very detailed discussion, I would imagine. We don't have the agenda yet, but that's likely to be a very detailed discussion. So far from the little information we have, which is basically from a Pfizer press release, they're saying, they've not seen anything surprising, any new side effects to be any different from what's seen in adults.